This episode is sponsored by the Live Alcohol Experiment, a 30-day science-based and compassion-led journey where you learn to develop a healthier relationship with alcohol without relying on willpower. Why? Because the truth is that willpower runs out. Instead, you learn how to focus on what you gain, not what you give up, so you can feel good about the decisions you make without shame or guilt. With the 30 days of video training, virtual daily coaching, and a private and supportive community, you get that and so much more. Join us today to get happier, healthier, and to take back your life. Your Live Alcohol Experiment starts on the 1st, so sign up at livealcoholexperiment.com. Hi, this is Annie Grace, and welcome to This Naked Mind podcast. And I'm here with Janelle. Hi, Janelle. How are you?
Hi, Annie. How are you doing? I'm good.
I'm so good. I love your top. You just really fun.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome. So welcome. Why don't you sort of take me back to the beginning with alcohol? Where did it all start for you?
Sure. Yeah. So my journey kind of started, I think, probably where a lot of people's do. I was in my later years of high school and just kind of started experimenting a little bit with beer, basically, or what was it, like Mad Dog, like some like awful like teenage drink that we all kind of had. And, I didn't really drink too much in high school or really even, in college, I drank a little bit more, but, coming from where I am now, I can look back and kind of realize like, oh yeah, like that really affected me. And like, I was pretty excited when I came across alcohol because I was like, wow, this is something that makes me feel like nothing else really has ever made me feel. So, I drank, I think what I would consider normally, like through college. And, then after college, I got a job. And then shortly after that, got married and I had a couple of kids. And of course, when you get pregnant, then you stop drinking because you don't want to drink while you're pregnant. So when I was pregnant, I didn't drink anything. And then, when my kids were really young, I, kind of started to realize, oh, now I'm kind of seeing why people drink because, it's stressful and it's challenging to have small children. But, I really didn't have, at least I wouldn't consider myself to really have much of a problem with it until I did go through a divorce when my kids were pretty little. And I feel like that kind of, I reached for that a little bit more than maybe I otherwise would have. And then that kind of behavior kind of, after I got divorced, I got settled and everything, was going along great, but I never made a conscious decision to really increase my drinking, but I started to just realize that over the years, I was drinking more and more and more. And then I really started to just kind of do some things where I thought this is starting to be a problem. And I wasn't really getting into trouble with anything, but, just waking up and having a headache every day and just getting into that same pattern of, you get done with work and then, you reach for the wine or the beer or whatever. And, you end up just like, before you know it, it's every single night. And so that's kind of where I found myself. And I was probably stuck in that pattern. Years, I was stuck in that pattern. And probably about maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I really started thinking, I got to get this under control. And, I had tried several different things and I just thought, I can't do it. This is just going to be how I am for the rest of my life because I don't know what to do. And, everything that I've done that's been successful in my life doesn't work when it comes to alcohol. Like it's just, I'm not able to do it. So it sounds so silly, but it's like, I feel like I tried everything. And then when I came across This Naked Mind, I actually read it and it really didn't do a whole lot for me. And what got me was probably about a year or so after I read the book, I signed up for one of the orientations, like the 3-day orientations. And that's what got me. I was absolutely hit over the head with a cast iron pan because going through that really opened a lot of visualization into where my life had come from and where I was going if I didn't change anything. So that's how I landed on This Naked Mind. And thank God I did, because it's been a miracle.
Amazing. That's amazing. So what was it like for you sort of during the time where you didn't, you read the book and you're just kind of, what were you thinking during that time, or what were you experiencing before the 3-day?
I was just in a really bad pattern. I would call myself, to use terms that we don't really, you don't really like to use with This Naked Mind. I mean, back then I was calling myself a highly functioning alcoholic, because I was just like you describe, Annie. You go to work and you're like, from the outside, somebody looking in at your life is like, oh wow, like they're like killing it. They're just killing their life. They're doing we're doing awesome at work. Their kids are great. Everything from the outside looking in, it looks like everything is just going great. And then inside, in my own mind, I'm waking up every morning and I'm just like absolutely hating myself, thinking I'm the worst mother in the world. I started doing a lot of things, and I think a lot of moms or parents in general can relate, for people who have struggled with alcohol, just because it really gets you with your kids, the way that you change your behavior, the way that I was treating my kids, my short temper, having a short temper, maybe losing my temper occasionally with them, and then they've gotten older now. I mean, right now my kids are 17 and 15, and, it's only been, the last few years, but they started to mention things to me, and that really hurts when your kid, and it hits home, because it's like, these are the kids that look up to you, and they're mentioning things like, Mom, I really hate it when you drink that much, or I don't know why you had to do that last night, or that really hurt my feelings when you did that. And that's really the pattern that I was stuck in, and I knew that something had to change, and I felt like I was trying everything to change, every morning getting up and swearing, that's it, this is the end, like I'm not doing it anymore. And then sure enough, 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's like, okay, almost there. I'm almost there. I'm almost made it, and I can have my beer or have my wine or have whatever, and it's just, I was just stuck in that cycle for so long. And, the guilt was just like crushing me to death. So yeah, it's a rough place to be.
And were you trying actively to change that?
I would say yes and no. I mean, I really wanted to change. And, when you wake up in the morning and you think, I'm dead set on this. I mean, in that regard, yes, I was very much wanting to change, but I wasn't taking any active steps to get out of the cycle that I had gotten stuck in. Like I would periodically, like sometimes I'd get so frustrated, so I'd go through and I'd clean my whole house out, dump everything away, and that may last 3 or 4 days or whatever, and then I'd think, oh, I'm good now, like it's fine, and then I'd swing by the store and pick something up, and then right back to where you were, so I think I tried little things like that, but I never tried anything different as far as like changing the pattern of my life. Years and years ago, I had tried, well, not years and years ago, probably about maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I did try AA, because I grew up, my mother was an alcoholic as well. And she kind of fell in she was in the same exact pattern as I was. So I really just followed right in her footsteps. But I had tried AA several years ago, and I just knew like it was absolutely not for me. I couldn't identify really with anyone. I hated the idea. I hated all of the just negativity that was there, as far as, there's something wrong with you. And, you can't, if you have a drink, you've just lost everything. You're back at square one. You're starting over from day one again. And that type of negativity has never really worked on me. And I'm a very kind of scientific person, and I work in medicine. And so I'm very driven by information and learning. And I think that's what finally made the change for me, was learning well, it was twofold, Annie. You hit everything perfectly with your method, because not only do you have the knowledge, so you educate people and you give them the understanding of what's going on physiologically with everything in your body to kind of sabotage you. And then you also have the part about letting go of all the guilt and being kind to yourself and giving yourself grace. That was key for me. And honestly, that was what made all the difference out of everything else and all the trying that I'd been doing before. Something clicked to me when you and Scott said, you have to like get past the guilt. You have to let the guilt go. And I mean, logically, we know that, right? I mean, I've read enough self-help books to know that like you shouldn't make yourself feel guilty for things, but I didn't realize how guilt was such like putting its foot on my neck, not letting me go anywhere, because it was just holding me back. You wake up in the morning with a headache and a hangover, and that guilt just kicks in. And it's like, I would never go any further than that. I was just in this perpetual cycle of feeling guilty and just being mad at myself, thinking I'm a failure. And it wasn't until I kind of started doing the pause where I thought, okay, I'd wake up, I'd feel crappy, for guilty and physically, feel bad. And then I would be like, okay, well, this is where I'm at today. And I don't have to quit drinking yet. I'm just looking at things. I'm just evaluating things. And I'm not letting the guilt in today. And so I just push it to the side, and I'd be like, and immediately it would pop back. It's like when you first start to meditate, it's like everything. And it's like, I'd push the guilt out, and then it would pop back immediately. And I'm like, nope, I'd push it back out. And then I'd get like maybe 2 or 3 minutes where I'd get up and, brush my teeth, and then, then the guilt would pop back. And then I had to push it out. But by doing that, it's like I opened the door to change, and I opened the door to exploring what's really going on. And that was life-changing. It changed everything. It absolutely changed everything. And then not only did I get that little door being opened, then all the information that I got when I did the path, because I was on the path, every day you'd have the little video or the little, reading or journaling exercise or something like that. And I'd go through that. And it's like, I just, that was how I could put one foot in front of the other, was letting the guilt go and moving forward in that direction, rather than just staying in the same rut that I was in.
Oh, that's so amazing. And it's so true. Like, I know that in the 3-day event, we sort of talk about, day one is all about how you have the wrong tools. And we do these like very visceral exercises to help you understand that like guilt and shame will not get you where you want to go. And if you could possibly just take 30 days of, no matter what mistakes you made, being graceful with yourself, like what could your life look like?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's weird how it's so simple. Like, why is it so hard if it's so simple? But you sit there and you just constantly beat yourself up. And then I kind of started to even look at myself and be like, well, this has not really served me well. This hasn't served me any better than the alcohol I'm drinking, by sitting here and beating myself up. And what's interesting about it now that I'm kind of on the other side, and I've had, many months now of not drinking anything, is, it's applicable to so many other things in your life as well. There's like, anytime I start to feel guilty or something, I kind of use those same techniques that I kind of learned from this program about, okay, well, yeah, so guilt never really helped anybody do anything. And I know there's a little bit that can be good. I know one of the topics that you talk about in the path, has a lot to do with guilt. And you talk about how guilt is kind of there for a reason, but as humans, we kind of have taken it to the nth degree, and where to the point where it doesn't actually serve its intended purpose. And so you kind of get stuck in those moments where you just let that guilt, just take over, and it's not really serving you because it's not prompting any sort of change. And so when you can now identify when guilt pops in and it's like, okay, the guilt is here. What am I feeling guilty about? Let's be curious about it, like you always say, and let's figure out what's going on. And it doesn't have to just be with alcohol. It can be with anything. I found it a useful practice just in being intentional and being mindful about my life and the things coming at me that, had I not had that kind of perspective previously, I probably would have just reached for a beer or reached for a glass of wine and not given it another thought until the next morning when I woke up and went through the same thing all over again.
Yeah, it's so true. And I feel like we just default to it. It's just kind of like what we've been, given as a society is like, okay, just beat yourself up more. And then that will be the way that you can affect change.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely, doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things I wanted to tell you too, is that like, going through the path and just kind of continuing now on in Living Naked and listening to all the wonderful, content and everything you have. One of the things I've really learned, and again, I had kind of known this before, I'd known it like academically, but not like internalized it, is that, when you have unhealthy coping mechanisms, whatever that may be, alcohol being, mine of choice. And I'm finding now after giving up alcohol that I have some other ones too, that I'm kind of trying to figure out. But when you don't choose healthy coping mechanisms, it really stops your growth. Like it just stops everything, all those things that I want to teach my children about how to cope and how to build life skills and stuff. It's like, I'm kind of having to learn some of those things myself too. And that's what's so great about, Living Naked too, is that I feel like you address so much more than you address everything. Like, what was I listening to the other day? I can't even remember what it was, but it was something, and I'm like, this isn't even related to alcohol, but it's like she knew I needed to hear this today. It's like, it's awesome. There's just so many different topics that you talk about that, and it's like you're approaching somebody's mental health full circle. The alcohol is kind of the starting point, and like that's what got me in it. But now that I've been through the path, and now that I'm moving further on down my Living Naked journey, like I see that like you really have like such broader topics to talk about, and really that's how you keep, I think that's how I'm gonna stay with it, is because once you kind of learn this stuff and you start to hone your skills for coping and hone your skills for dealing with things in a mature way, it's like, it's going to help you to not fall back into those same patterns. So yeah, it's wonderful. I owe so much to you and the program and Scott and all the people that were in my class and all that kind of, it's been so great. I can't even tell you. It's a miracle. It truly is. It's a miracle. I never thought I would get out of it. I honestly thought all hope was lost. I was just like, this is me and this is how my life is going to be because I can't get out of it. And then, to look back and realize like, gosh, I remember being so scared and so deflated and so just stuck. And it honestly wasn't even that hard to get out of it and to realize like all that suffering that I felt for all those years. And all it took was this, it's not like going through the path was this like torturous, kind of like going through AA or starting to go to the meetings. It's like, you kind of even look at that as like, oh, I have to start. It was a joy to go through it. It's wonderful. And it's like, if I would have known sooner, like, who knows? It hit me at the right time. I don't know, but it was not even, it was liberating. It wasn't a challenge. It wasn't painful. It was, well, I shouldn't say that. It's painful to go through the process, but it's worth it. And it's wonderful because you come out the other side and you're like a new person. You feel so great about everything, or at least I did, so yeah, it feels like a miracle, because I mean, I'm not really one who truly believes in like miracles. I think there's a lot going on there, but I thought I was done. I thought that was how I was going to be for the next however long that I was graced to be on the earth. I thought that was just going to be me, and it's wonderful to not be stuck there anymore.
I love that, Janelle. That's just so amazing. And I think that what you're talking about with, living naked and the content in that program, kind of the post-drinking content, is I always think of it in my own life where, when I put down the things that I was using to self-medicate, and it was like, oh, wait a second, like I actually have to, function in my life without just trying to like ignore it all the time, or ignore anything that's going wrong, or ignore some of the really toxic thoughts and patterns of thinking that I have in my mind, and all those sorts of things. And I was like, I was with my daughter one night, and she was 3, and I was brushing her teeth. And, when they're little, you have to like help them brush their teeth because they just don't quite get it yet. And I was thinking, I was like, oh my gosh, we as parents have gotten so much education around our children's teeth by the age of 3. And by the way, all of her teeth at that point in time, they're all going to fall out. None of them are permanent, right? Like, so it's like, you get a do-over in some ways with baby teeth. And yet we are like diligently every night taking care of them, every morning taking care of them. And I was just thinking, like, there's no flossing for mental health. There's no point at which we are intentionally, consciously thinking about how to manage our minds and our experience as humans, unless something goes wrong in our lives and we haphazard into it, or unless something goes really bad and we end up, needing some more intense interventions than maybe coaching. And it just really strikes me that, like, just in general, we are so needing to take, look at this, I think, in a way that it becomes more just regular ongoing maintenance than it does.
Yeah, absolutely. And it, like, I feel like, if my parents would have been better about, teaching me, maybe there's people out there that get lucky and, their parents teach them well, or their parents teach them in a way that is meaningful to them. I feel like my parents taught me coping skills and stuff like that, but obviously it wasn't to the depth and and level that I needed in order to catch myself before I fell into this terrible pattern of bad choices for coping. But it's interesting because I've always been a person who's been very cognizant of my mental health, and that probably is also why, like, it just, like, it used to just drive me crazy, because I'm like, how am I the person that this is happening? Like, how did I know better than this? Like, how did I get stuck in this pattern? And I'd gone to therapy multiple times, and I'd outright told them that I was drinking too much. I'm like, I'm here because I'm drinking too much. And even it's like they wouldn't really even almost believe me. It's like they almost wanted to say, like, well, it doesn't sound like you're really drinking that much. Like, you haven't really, like, missed any work, and you haven't, gotten in trouble with the law or anything like that. And it's like they almost didn't believe me. And it's like, that's, in a way, you're like, oh, okay, well, now it's out there and I've told them and they think I'm okay. So, okay, I'm okay, And it's like, in my head, I'm like, I know I'm not okay. I know I'm not. And so obviously, like, therapy, even admitting to a therapist that I have a problem with alcohol wasn't enough of me reaching out to get help. It just took, like, I don't know why, what, forces aligned when I happened to stumble across, the 3-day orientation for, This Naked Mind. Like, I think I was just ready and I was just in that place, but I don't know, like something is missing even in the professional setting too, because I mean, the fact that like I could go and tell, I mean, this isn't just one therapist. I've told 3 different therapists that I have a problem with alcohol, and none of them ever did anything or expressed any concern or put me on some sort of a program or path, or even just like individual exercises or a process of trying to cope with that. Like nobody did anything for me, even just coming out right and admitting it. I don't think they really knew what to do. I mean, other than, I mean, what do therapists do when you tell them that? I mean, I guess they suggest you go to AA or something, but it's like, that's just passing the buck. That's not actually helping. So I don't know. I don't know. It's frustrating that mental health, like, and maybe I just got kind of some therapists that weren't really as well trained in dealing with addiction or something, but I don't know. I mean, I just thought it was weird. And that's another reason why I just thought all hope was lost, because I'm like, I've tried therapy and it's not working. Like nobody can help me. I'm beyond help.
Yeah. And I think that's, it's such an interesting aspect when that would happen to me too, where I would go to a doctor, even like a medical doctor, and want to like talk about like, how much is too much? What's your opinion? What are your thoughts? And it was always diminished,
Yeah.
like, oh, unless, you're wrecking your cars or not showing
Right.
up for work, or, some really terrible things are happening. It was just really always diminished. And I have, we do this Naked Mind Institute with where we certify coaches, and I've now had doctors go through and therapists go through, and both have told me that it is just woefully inadequate, the training. So people feel really helpless, and it's not like they don't want to help. It's just that they have no idea how to help. And so it's just, it's unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to be ready for sure. And I think that's what's so great about your program is, being ready. You can be ready every morning when you wake up with a headache, but it's like I remember, in the introduction to the path, that, you're just don't do the sessions like after you've been drinking, and just keep doing them, just no matter what, just keep doing them. And that's what I did. I mean, I was drinking, for the first few weeks on the path, and it's like, but I just kept showing up, and it wasn't just willpower. Like it didn't take me willpower to show up, because like all you said, like just let yourself off the hook. You're not trying to quit drinking just yet, but just keep showing up. And then you get that knowledge, the knowledge, which for me was so important. Like I loved learning. I knew a little bit about how it works and how, the brain works and stuff like that. But like learning about the different, like the dynorphin was huge for me. Like that was such a huge game changer for me to understand how that worked. And it's like, oh my gosh, like this is totally sabotaging me. Like it's not just about going through, having a little bit of a high from alcohol, and then the next day, feeling a little bit more depressed or whatever. Like this is physiological, like why I'm feeling this way. And sometimes that was enough, on a few occasions where I wanted to go and, grab a drink or whatever. I'm like, nope, I've gotten a few days under my belt. I've got all that dynorphin out of my system. Like, I don't want to like let it back in. And so, I would just like, sometimes that was enough of a reason for that day, to not reach for a drink. So you just start piling on this knowledge and this understanding. And it's an interesting thing because, that only goes one way. You can't take knowledge away. Like it only goes one way. So once you learn it, you can't unlearn it. And then it. And then it makes you make different choices once you know those things. So yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah. And that's, I think, such a cool thing about the whole journey is you truly can't take knowledge away. Like you can't make it, you can't unlearn,
Right.
which
Right. Yep. I know. Yeah, it's great that it works that way for, it was great for this journey because, once I kind of started learning all this and, between the knowledge of what was physiologically going on in my body and starting and the forgiveness or the grace of letting myself off the hook and just letting go of all the guilt and saying that's not helping right now. There's a time and a place for that, but it's not right now. We're just going to let all that go. And that forgiveness kind of melted over into other places in my life too. Like I've always been a very big person on, keeping my house really clean, going to the gym, all those things. And I kind of just started to be like, I'm working on this right now. And if the dishwasher isn't emptied tonight, it's okay because I'm working on this right now. And same thing with the gym. And it's like, it was just all of that just helped me further along on my journey to just learn how to be kind and forgiving with myself and just being like, this is forward progress and I'm liking what I'm seeing. So if I don't go to the gym today, it's okay because I'm really doing something good here. And this is a big deal. And I'm happy with where this is going. So forget the gym for today.
Just being gentle with yourself and kind of focusing on one thing at a time, a little bit of like micro commitments, which is so powerful.
Yeah.
Well, that's just so awesome. So how has life been? How is everything going now that you're on your way?
Yeah, it's going great. I mean, I'm really surprised with how much time I have. Like, it's amazing how when you're drinking all the time, how it just eats away all your time. And it's been great to have all this extra time. And oh my gosh, my kids are so happy. Like, they are just and oh, bless them, they're just the light of my life. But like, they're so happy that I quit drinking, and they say to me all the time, like, Mom, we're so proud of you, and this is just so great. And not only just being like, I can be an example to them now, like to show them that, like, this doesn't have to be something that you get stuck with for your whole life, and people can change if, they're able, if they're willing and able to do so. But just having more time to have intention with my relationship with them too, because they're obviously a little bit older. There's, like I said, 17 and 15. So they obviously are well into their own lives and schoolwork and activities. And one of my daughters works. And so they're busy a lot of times, but when they're not, like, it's nice to have time with them where it's not like I'm just sitting there on the couch, half drunk, not even able to like ask them about their day or anything. So it's been great to really help those relationships and have more time to spend with them and have quality time when I have it, when I'm able to get a little bit of time with them. We can have really good conversations, and I've been very open with them from day one. Like, ever since I went through that 3-day orientation, I've let them know everything that I'm doing. And like, I would tell them all the time, oh, in today's lesson, we learned, we were talking about this. And so they've been very aware of it. And there's been things that I've been able to kind of share with them. And it's like a growth moment for both of us where we can, there's been some times when my daughter came home and, told me about something that maybe happened at school. And I was like, hey, actually today I learned about, like, you could probably relate that to, this situation. I relate it to, my journey with alcohol, and you can relate it to this situation that happened at lunch with your friend, so it's been great. Life is going great. And yeah, like I said, I can't see myself ever going back. Like, I have no desire to drink whatsoever. None, like zero. Just coffee. I haven't fully given up coffee yet.
Me neither. That's awesome. That's so great. So, Janelle, let me ask you the question that I kind of finished these up with, which is, if you were going to go back in time to yourself who felt really stuck and hopeless, who talked to multiple therapists about this and just feeling like, gosh, well, nothing's for me. What would you tell her about life, what life is like now?
I would say that there is hope, and you've got to find a way to get out of your own way. And by that, I mean, it was truly the guilt that was holding me back. And I didn't realize that forcing the guilt to not be part of my mentality for that day opened up a door to the freedom that I wanted from alcohol. And it's because that guilt just robbed me. It took up too much mental real estate in my brain for me to see that there was anything else that could happen on the other side of it. There's hope, and that if you can just push yourself past, push that guilt out of the way, it's not going to be hard. It's not going to be as painful as you think it's going to be. It's not going to be as white knuckling as you think it's going to be. It's truly going to just be eye-opening, and it's going to be work, but it's going to be good work, and it's worth it. And there's going to be peace through the whole process, even through some of the hard parts. Because I think that's what was really so hard about the person that I was back then, is that I was just so incredibly hopeless. And just to know that there is hope, like I said, it's a miracle. Like, I feel like it's just truly a miracle. And for me to be able to look back at myself, the person that I was back then, and to say, you can do it, and there is hope. I just didn't believe that back then. And now to be on the other side, it's like, oh my gosh, like, I just want to take that girl and hold her and be like, it's all going to be okay. You can do this. You are stronger than this, and you can do it.
I love that so much. It's just awesome. What a cool thing to say.
Yeah.
It's all very true. Well, this has just been awesome, Janelle. Thanks so much for coming.
Oh gosh, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's so great to talk to you. You're like my idol, Annie. You remind me so much of myself, honestly. Like, some of the things that you say, like in the videos, and just on I've listened to your podcast too, and just some of the things you say in the book. I mean, I think a lot of, other women that have kids and, careers and stuff, I think so many people can identify with you, so, I'm just so glad that you do this work. It's so important. And I mean, I don't know. For me, obviously it's the only thing that ever worked. So you have the golden ticket. You have the magic, like, process and the magic way of communicating with at least a certain group of people like myself. I hope you feel fulfilled in your life, because you should, for all the people that you've helped, including me. So.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And yeah, it's very, very fulfilling and very, very cool to get to help. I'm also impatient, because I feel like I want to reach, more people and change how just the common language around the issues, but
Yeah.
One thing at a time.
Yeah. It's really weird how much you start to notice it, like, there's just, I mean, now we're getting into the holidays, and I'm kind of a shopper. That's another one of my, like, coping things that I'm trying to work on, because I definitely use retail therapy as a coping mechanism too. But now with all the, like, the holidays and stuff coming, like, there's wine everywhere, and just, like, everything is alcohol. And it's like, I noticed it before, but it's like, it's almost like comedy, and just, I mean, it's just so toxic. It's so toxic to have that all over our society. And I know that you're, like, really working so hard to, kind of try to change some of that we have around our society and alcohol. But it's just so crazy how much is out there, and how much you notice it when you give up drinking. And yeah, it's really, really sad. And I feel really happy that, like, not like, I spent so many years being, trapped in that, but, like, my kids have, like, the journey has not only helped me, it's helped my kids too, because I mean, my kids swear, they're like, Mom, we're never going to drink. And they were saying that before, like, when I was still drinking too, because I always told them, when I was drinking, I was like, I was like, girls, just don't ever start, because if you start, it's hard to stop, and you don't realize when that point is. You're just going to get to a point like me, like right here where I am now, and you're not going to be able to stop. So if there's a piece of advice I can give you when you're about drinking, just don't ever start, and then you don't have to stop. And they saw me struggle with it. I mean, I was open with them about going through this journey with this naked mind. I was open with them before, where I'm like, I don't know why I can't stop. Like, I'm sorry. I want to stop. Like, and they felt, stuck too. Cause they felt bad. They're like, what can we do to help? And I'm like, there's nothing you can do. It has to be me. And, so I feel like it's been so great to kind of take the journey with my kids and have them see what I've gone through, so that, it only just reinforces, for their own lives. And who knows, maybe they'll get stuck in the trap too at some point in time, but I really doubt it. Like, after all this, like, I feel like they're so much better equipped, just giving them the tools and teaching them kind of, you had a couple lessons where it's like, what I wish I would have known before my first drink. Like, I shared all of that with them. Like, we listened to some of those together, because I was like, gosh, I wish I would have known. Well, here, I can let you know now that, you're old enough to understand this. They're around it because some of their friends are of the age where they're starting to kind of drink sometimes. And it's good to have them, I'm very open with them, and it's not a taboo topic at all. Like, we talk openly about it. So it's been good for me to be able to go through this journey myself, but also kind of share it with them and know that I'm kind of paying it forward with them.
Oh, I love that.
So, yeah.
That's just amazing.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah. What a good ripple.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I really appreciate being able to talk to you. Like I said, I was like, oh my gosh, I wonder if it'll actually be Annie on this call. It's so great. I'm a little starstruck.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad to talk to you too. And thank you so much for sharing just such a great story. I really appreciate it. It's been really fun to hear.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Sounds good. Well, thanks. And I'm continuing on the living naked journey. So I'll be around, and I'll be in all the feeds and all that stuff. So
awesome. Well, we'll see you there for sure then. All right.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks, Annie. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. Hey, I'm so excited because we are literally just about to start another live alcohol experiment. And if you don't know about the alcohol experiment, you need to literally drop everything right now and go to livealcoholexperiment.com. Here's the thing. This is a 30-day challenge, and it's designed to interrupt your patterns and put you back in touch with the best version of you. You'll know it's that version that's living the most joyful life, that version that doesn't need alcohol to relax or have a good time, and that version that's having more fun and is more peaceful than ever. Again, it's just a 30-day challenge. It's live every single day. It's starting on the 1st, so hurry up. Join me at livealcoholexperiment.com. And as always, rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast, as it truly helps the message reach somebody who might need to hear it today.